You're listening to Careers and Cocktails, career talk with a twist, hosted by expert recruiter Renee Frey. Let's get this party started.
Hey party people, welcome back to Careers and Cocktails. I am so excited because I have one of my idols on the show today, the fearless Anne Finch. She is a wonderful individual, business leader, extraordinaire, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about herself. And her favorite drink is the Moscow Mule, which is so popular on the show. I've made so many mules, I think I've perfected it.
Ooh, I hope so. I hope for my case.
But tell us a little bit about yourself, Anne.
Well, so I am a married, very happily married, a mother of four. I'm a senior leader in the healthcare space. I've been doing IT for 37 years now and have just kind of recently transitioned more into the CEO space. So it's been quite an interesting twist of careers that I never really saw coming. So
awesome. And I can't wait to get into that. But more on that. Well, let's get our cocktail started. So my favorite drinks to make, I call them the menage a trois because they only have 3 ingredients. These are the menage a trois cocktails, and a Moscow Mule is one of them because all we have is vodka, lime juice, and ginger beer. So today we are making the Moscow Mule with the Wander North vodka, and we will just pour the 2 ounces directly in our copper cup. So 2 ounces of vodka going into Anne's glass.
She makes them strong.
And the copper cup transitions to the temperature of the ice and ingredients inside, which is why they use them. And it's a super fun flair because they're just beautiful. So after the vodka, we're going to put in a half ounce of lime juice, which, hopefully that's half ounce. We're just eyeballing it. If we need more, we can adjust.
It's more of an art than it is a science.
Right? Totally. And then lastly, 4 ounces of ginger beer. And ours is non-alcoholic. They do make alcoholic ginger beer, but you typically don't put that in a mule, which I have done before and made it exceptionally strong.
Yes. Yeah. I do think it's a little bit better with a non-alcoholic ginger beer. But everybody has their own preferences.
Right. I totally agree. So we're going to do 4 ounces of the ginger beer in each cup.
It just sounds good.
I know, right? Well, I love bubble. Well, and they call it a mule because the ginger gives it a kick.
I did not know that. See, you learn something on every one of these podcasts.
I know you do. It's crazy. When people are like, you know that much about alcohol? I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm just a total enthusiast. So it's fun to learn the histories. And the Moscow Mule, I think there was some gentleman supposedly in LA. It's controversial whether it's LA or New York. But they had so much ginger beer and a surplus of vodka that they just threw it together and made the Moscow Mule. And they named it Moscow because majority of vodka is from Russia. So, all right. And then we're going to stir this up. So here's your straw.
Thank you.
And then we're going to garnish it with a little lime.
There's no going halfway with you, is there?
No. Well, you got it. Hey, we're all in. So cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You did well.
Ooh, that's good.
Ooh.
It's like perfect, right?
Yes, very nice. Thank you.
And then other variations of Moscow Mules, when you add different vodka or different alcohol, different spirits, the names change. So one of Anne's favorites is the Dark and Stormy, is where you swap the vodka for dark rum. You can also swap the vodka for bourbon, and then it turns into a Kentucky Mule. If you want an Irish Mule, you would swap the vodka for Irish whiskey. And then one thing I definitely haven't tried yet is swapping in tequila and make a Mexican Mule. So I definitely have to try that.
The biggest requirement is having the copper mug. I find it's a huge disappointment when you go into a restaurant and they bring you a Moscow Mule in a glass. And it's like, wah, wah, wah.
I know, right?
Yeah, you gotta ask.
I
always
know.
ask.
It's so cool. So, Anne, what can we celebrate for you this week?
Well, I recently had my home in a tour of homes for Christmas.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to get to decorate with a lot of the local retailers. And I had 1,500 of my new closest friends come through my house. And I've survived.
Wow.
So
well, cheers to
that's what
that.
I'm celebrating.
Cheers to that. So tell me, I know because, I live in Hudson as well, while we live in the same neighborhood. What was it like preparing and each room like coming to life, because they do extraordinary things. So how did you get it all ready before the visitors were going to arrive?
Well, it was probably better that I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because in my head, I think I'm a really great decorator. You put up a tree, you put up a couple nutcrackers, and you're done, right? But because they have retail partners that come in and help you, they would come in and they see your tree, and you're like, well, that's nice. And then they would like, what about this? What about this? So it was really, I learned a lot. I know things about decorating that I never knew before. I'll give you the best secret. You'll love this.
Yes.
You ever see those huge trees and they've got all this ribbon going in and out and stuff? I'm usually the one on the ladder with this long thing of ribbon. You keep moving the tree, you keep moving the ladders. They cut them in chunks. Like, who knew? You cut them in chunks. You put one end in, you put the other end in, and you make it look like it's one. Game changer. You don't have to move the ladder 600 times.
Right.
You don't have this roll running across.
Right.
So game changing. I
love
decorating to the next level.
I love it. Thanks for that tip. And pretend I'm a kindergartner. So I'm sitting at my little desk. Explain to me, what do you do for a living?
So I run a company, and our company provides healthcare services to all branches of the military to make sure that they're healthy enough that they can protect our country.
Awesome. That is so cool.
I am super honored to have that kind of a mission.
Now, you have done something extraordinary. For most people that are listening, you may or may not know, but Anne was a CIO, so Chief Information Officer, meaning the highest level IT professional in an organization, and made the transition to Chief Executive Officer, the CEO, the highest level executive leader in the company. And that doesn't always occur.
It was a surprise to me, too.
So how did you do that, especially being a woman? Like, that's why you're my idol. Is I love seeing women who empower other women rising to the top. Anne is one of these people who will, she broke through the glass ceiling and she's going to reach down and grab the other women to come up with her. But tell us, how did you do that in such a heavily male populated environment?
Yeah, so I think what really transformed me from a CIO into a CEO is as I took on my CIO role, you always want to hook what you're doing technology-wise to the strategy of the business.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I came into a business that was running very well. They were doing a great job, but they weren't looking multiple years out. And so I basically said, hey, nobody's running the strategy. Do you mind if I start having strategic planning meetings with all the business? And instead of just talking about what are we going to do with technology the next year, where do we need to be in 2 years or 3 years? So it went from just for technology for the whole company. And I think as we got into that rhythm over the 4 years I was CIO, they just saw me as the person that would continually organize the future and plan for the future. And so when it was time to pick a successor for the founder of the company, he's like, well, you've been leading the future for the last 4 years. Why don't you just go ahead and keep doing it?
Cheers to that.
Woo-hoo.
So cool.
Yep.
I love it. So what's the first paid job you ever had? We're going back in the archives.
Yeah, this is going back a ways. It was actually while I was in high school. I taught myself programming.
Oh, you did?
So when I was 14 years old, I was a programmer, and my accounting teacher found that out and asked if I would write an accounting service, even though I didn't know what accounting was, for his church. So I wrote an accounting service, how to run his church on a computer. And then he forwarded me to his friend who ran a mortuary. So then I wrote a mortuary service.
Seriously?
And then he passed me his friend that ran a video store. So while I was still in high school, I programmed for money multiple years.
That is awesome.
Yep.
Was that your foray into IT then?
It was. I had started with a little Apple IIe, and that's what everybody was using. It was the first. They didn't even have hard drives. They had an operating system, data disk. You went back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
So by the time I graduated from high school, I'd actually been programming for 3 years.
Wow. That's incredible, Anne.
My mom and dad had no idea what I did in my bedroom. They're just like, I don't know. She's got this computer. The door is shut.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've seen technology change so much.
So much.
Tell us, do you thrive in it? Is it for the do you see any caveats with all of the technology that is coming so quickly and rapidly?
Well, I think that's why I've loved technology, because there's no single year that's the same. And I love to learn. A successful day for me is when I learn something new, like where the mule came from, right?
Right.
And so I've loved that. I've loved that technology continues to reinvent itself, that no year is the same.
Yeah.
But I think to thrive in that kind of environment, that's the way you have to look at it. Instead of getting bummed out that, gosh, I know COBOL and now COBOL's dead, you just get excited about the next thing, like what's around the next corner. It's like, sure, now Java is starting to kind of fade into that. Well, what's around the corner? What's the next technology?
Right.
So
how do you work that through with your teams, though? I'm sure, because I know you've worked for several organizations, and I know some people are very resistant to change. And so those, I call them the traditional workers, that are resistant to change. How do you get them on board with the next new coming technology?
Yeah. I think a big part of it is kind of spoon feeding it in a way that, like, this is where we're going. This is why this technology is important, and continue to talk about it as their accountability. Because I do think there's a lot of people that traditional employees are like baby birds. It's like, here, sit and feed me my next job, feed me my next career. And then they're frustrated when it's not just handed to them. And I do like to showcase the self-learners. I like to showcase the people that are helping us look around the corner and say, hey, let's try this. So I think by just continuing to showcase that's who's going to get ahead, are the people that are looking around the corner, trying out the new things and not getting stuck in the way we've always done things.
I love that.
I've got a button that says the way we've always done things with a big X through
Oh,
it.
do you? That's funny. I love it. Everyone should have that button.
Yeah.
Along the way, you've had a lot of advanced degrees. You have your master's in software design and a doctorate in organizational development. Extremely impressive. Clearly, learning and growing is important to you. But has that always been the case for you to continue your education? What propelled you to get the master's and the doctorate, Anne?
Well, I'll kind of start back with that 14-year-old programmer in the basement, right? So think about it. I'm done with high school and I've been programming, so why would I go back to school, right? So I didn't go back to school. In fact, while I was in high school, I started taking technical degrees, just like you can now. You can go in high school and you get college credit.
Right.
So about 6 months after I graduated, I had my degree in computer programming. I had my degree in computer operations. And I had no interest in going to college full time. I'm making money.
Absolutely.
I've got my own things going on. Why would I go sit in a classroom?
Right.
Yet, my parents were both higher education. My dad's a college professor, an art teacher, right? So it's hard to say no to college.
Absolutely.
So I did my bachelor's degree one class at a time while working full time. It took me 10 years to get my bachelor's in business.
Wow.
Because it was just one class at a time.
Sure.
I got married, had a couple of kids during that time, but I always knew that was important. Like, that's just leveling the playing field. And by that point, I'd gone to school for 10 years. And I'm like, well, I guess I should just keep going.
I love it.
Think about it. The technology had changed in those 10 years. And suddenly people I was supervising and managing knew more about technology. So going back for that master's of software allowed me to get in touch with the next wave of technology.
Awesome.
That took about 4 years. And then I finished and I'm going, what do I do now? I was literally walking down the hall of University of St. Thomas and I said, well, what is next? And I'd never even thought about a doctorate. I picked it up and I read the description of the organizational development program. And I'm like, how to motivate people, how to make teams better, how to set culture. And all my career had been implementing technology. And I was like, it's always the people that made it hard. Why didn't anybody teach me how to motivate individuals? Why didn't anybody teach me how to make teams? And you can make your own culture. I always assumed you got what you got.
Sure.
Now this was the secret sauce. So I jumped in with both feet, told my husband I'm going back to school and I'm getting a degree. That took another 7 years, but I can tell you, every one of those degrees kind of took my career to that next level.
I love that.
And if I could go to school right now, I still would. But
Right.
I promised my husband I wouldn't go back. I found a loophole for a while. I taught as a professor at the
That's right.
University
That's
of
right.
St. Thomas for 10 years. But with the CIO job and the CEO job, there's just not enough hours in the day.
Right,
So.
right. So tell us, going back to the organizational development doctorate, because you are very well known in the Twin Cities arena. When I network with CIOs, a lot of people know you, and they commend you on your extraordinary leadership ability. So tell me about, because I know you're huge on servant leadership. So tell me about that, and how did, your education even enhance you as a better leader? Because I see, from what I've heard, once you were leading people, you've always been an incredible leader, Anne.
Well, I think I'm really lucky. I'll give my dad a lot of credit. He was always an optimistic teacher, right? So like nothing in his art class somebody would make, he'd say this is crappy. He could always see the positive in anything.
Sure.
So as I started leading people, I just naturally didn't see their weaknesses. I saw their strengths. And when you pump people up on their strengths and you get them into like magic happened. I would often get teams where they're like, yeah, you're going to have to get rid of these people. And oh, that person's no good at stuff. But I would always be able to see what their gifts were. And once you put them into the right spot, it was like magic would happen.
Absolutely.
And not only did my career go better, their career went better, and they brought other people up behind them too. So
sure.
That's what I like about the servant leadership approach. When you come in every day and just say, how can I make Renee the best person she can make? And every single person you touch that day, how can I help that person? I even extend that to when I go to the grocery store. You got that cashier, she's haggled, somebody's grumbling on something. Can you just smile at them and say, you're doing a great job today? Why wouldn't you continue to lift people up all day long? It just pumps you up the whole day.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you and I are very similar in that regard. And it took me a little transition, though, to be able to do that, like in the public arena. I used to be the first one through the door. The door would slam shut behind me. I have a fast gait. I walk fast. I talk fast. And then I would say about 5 years ago is when I started meditating and really doing a lot of mindset shift. And that was the secret sauce is no, I hold the door open and let the person behind me go first. And same with you with the cashier, commend them on bagging my groceries in a great way. And they just light up. And to me, that's the key. So I love that you thread that throughout your professional life and your personal life. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think, that ties a little bit to, and how did I even get that? Like, how was that in my head? I had a boss, a great boss, and he once time saw that I was always hurrying, like was always just trying to get to the next thing. And he said, sometimes you need to go slow to go fast, and you need to accept that people change only as fast as they can change, and there's all different speeds, and you may think it's going to take this long. And he said, cultural change takes 3 years. And I'm like, 3 years? My project plan has it down for 30 minutes on a Thursday. And so that's so sunk in over time. And I could see any time I was trying to push things to go faster than they go, it actually made them go longer. Because you weren't kind of listening to how long people needed to adapt to things.
Sure.
So that really has changed my mindset, that go, get stuff done. I love that. I'm like you. I love getting stuff done. But then you realize, go slow to go fast. Go slow to go fast.
Absolutely.
And things kind of fall in place.
Absolutely. So tell us about one of your failures and how you overcame it.
Well, the biggest disappointment for me is realizing that I'm a pretty crappy technologist.
What?
So think about that. I've been programming since I was 13. And the more I worked with technology, at a certain point, I had to realize that I'm actually not a good technologist. I am good at leading technology people. I am good at seeing the potential for technology, but as a coder, as a software engineer, as a detailed person, a network security, all of that stuff, I'm not good at it.
When did you make that discovery, Anne?
I was probably about 10 years into my career, and I was supervising other people, and I started realizing that, oh my gosh, this person's actually like a better coder than me, and oh my gosh, this person's actually a better network analyst than me. And letting go of that was an identity thing, right? So think about it. This is what I've been since I was 14, and I had to step back and go, I'm actually not a good technologist. I am a good person at seeing the potential of technology and the potential of technologists, but I can't do technology. So the failure to be a good technology made me pivot to what am I good at?
Right.
I'm good at getting things done through other people. I'm actually not good at getting stuff done myself. That's a huge failure. I mean,
wow.
if you think about that, but you have to kind of twist it and say, well, what do you do with that then? If you're not a good technology person, well, you get a bunch of real good technologists.
Absolutely.
So.
Going back to how you identify the strengths in your team, how do you do that and get them on the right projects to align to those strengths?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is being observant and taking time to listen to what brings them joy. So like when I've got somebody that's in trouble, a lot of times I do talk to them. It's like, what do you like doing? Like during the day, what makes you the happiest? Like when do you feel at your best? So that starts guiding you there. And then you listen to other people about what do they like about that person? When do they depend on that person? How do they get that person? And then you take all the things that people describe as people's weaknesses and what's not working. You say, now, if I peeled that off and put that away and they never did that again, are there jobs that could use just that? I am also a big Strengths Finders.
Me too.
From Tom Rand. So I love having somebody take that, especially when they're struggling. And then I just look at it through that lens and go, does that match? But oftentimes I find that as a double check to my gut as to what I'm seeing. But
yeah,
I
love the Strengths Finder. I've done that with my whole team here. We've gridded out the difference, and it's so interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge proponent on when I was in corporate America at Target, they would always do these 360 peer reviews, and they'd always give you feedback on what you weren't good at. And I never cared because I only wanted to do things where I could soar with my strengths.
Yep.
Because that other shit isn't going to change.
Yep.
I'm always going to be impatient. I'm always going to speak my mind. And that is not going to, that is who I am. So let's go with my strengths, like you said, and let me thrive in the areas I'm really strong at. And so that's what I look for in my team, that the strengths align to what they're doing here.
Yeah. Another book that I really like, and you probably know it too, The Happiness Advantage with Sean Aker.
Yes.
And what I like about him, he talks about, why do we study the average? Let's study the exceptional. So that one little outlier that you normally cross off, the overachiever, the person that's doing even better, let's stop doing that. Let's study that. So that's what I've also like. You combo that with the Strengths Finders. You're like, let's find who's best at this. Let's give them all the stuff they're good at and stop, like for me, sending me to grammar class, attention to details, finance. It's like I've taken so many. I'm like, if you know enough to say the commas in the wrong place, you know what I'm saying. Right?
Right. Well, and who needs that crap? Like grammar, schmammer.
Right. You know it's spelled wrong, then you know what the word is, right?
Right. So fun. Well, and I struggle with that all the time. I think I've even sent emails misspelled, and I'm like, why didn't it pick it up? Forever is a mystery to me. So with unemployment in, the area being so low in the upper Midwest, how is that impacting your organization, and how do you guys go after the great talent?
It's a great problem to have, isn't it?
It is a great problem.
Who doesn't want almost zero unemployment?
Right.
But I think it does make it really important for you then to be the employer of choice. Right?
Absolutely.
So, and recognize that you are not the employer of choice for everybody, but who is the right person? So if this is your culture and this is what you need, be really good at describing what good looks like. Like, here's the match for me. Here's the type of people that are going to thrive in this environment, so that when they come in, they want to stay because the fit is so good. So you need to know your company. You need to know the purpose. You need to know what the right personality is. And then when they get them in, make every day filled with purpose, filled with mission, knowing they're using their strengths. Nobody's going to walk away from that.
Right. And I call that re-recruiting your team. So On Point is a book from Pam Borton, and that's where I learned the re-recruit your team concept. So that's what keeps me up at night, is constantly thinking about how do I retain my employees, because they're so hard to find in the first place.
Right.
So
I love when people think about going and they even tell you. And they're like, I have to admit, I went on an interview, and then when I started listening to them talk about what the job was, I found myself comparing to what I already had. That's what you want running in their head all the time. Like, what won't I have if I go somewhere else?
Right. How cool is that, though, that they are transparent enough to surface that to you? That's pretty commendable. How do you keep that transparency open with your teams?
I think it's back to being approachable. In my head, I'm still just me. It like kind of blows me away when people get nervous when they're around me because they're like, well, you're the CEO. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just me. Like I had to find my socks this morning too, right? So you just stay very approachable. And you be seen talking to people at every level and talk to them at the level they're at. When I talk to an intern that's nervous and in their 5th day, I'm going to talk to them as long as I talk to somebody that's in my executive team and has been with the company for 15 years. You need to be seen giving them that time. Ask them a lot of questions. Tolerate the different levels because they are going to have different things they're worried about in the different levels. I think sometimes people see that as, well, that's somebody else's job. That's a supervisor's job. That's a manager's job. But I want to hear from all the layers. I want to know what it's like to be an intern, a 2-year company person, a 15-year company person. You need to know all those perspectives because all the experiences matter.
Absolutely.
To retain your employees and keep them engaged.
Well, that's an incredible way to lead because you're at the top, and when you lead from the top, then everyone sees that and they kind of march to that philosophy as well. So that just warms my heart.
I hope so.
That's awesome. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Well, other than the go slow to go fast, I think it was do something that you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Oh, amen to that. Cheers to that.
Woohoo! I really can only think of maybe 1 or 2 times in my life when I haven't wanted to go to work. And I think mostly it's just because I was sick.
Right.
But I truly do love what I do. And when I haven't, I've made different career choices. I've made different company choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important. I mean, think about a lot of the people listening. I mean, some people are going to work another 30 years. And if you know you're going to work another 30 years, make it a rockin' 30 years,
Absolutely.
right?
I'm on the same camp. I'm totally in the same camp. I love jumping out of bed and coming to work.
Yeah.
I absolutely love, and I tell everyone, no matter what you're doing, you can change whatever it is to find your passion and follow it. It's never, ever too late.
Yeah. And I think there's fun in every job. I mean, I've got 2 kids that are working at a restaurant now. And I think everybody should have to work at a restaurant. I remember when I worked at restaurants, there is always something fun. There's new people to meet. There's new customers to meet. There's their celebrations. Become part of their celebrations.
Sure.
And somebody's shoulder. Somebody needs support somewhere at any time. So I think you make your own fun, right?
Absolutely.
I can think some of the worst times that now I look back, they were actually the best of times.
I think
you make your own fun.
I love it. What's the best advice you can give to our listeners, Anne?
I do think just be good at change. I don't think in this economy, in this speed of change, whether it's technology or just people, you just have to be ready to change and recognize yourself when you feel like that. Ooh, like I'm reacting to change and then be curious to yourself. Why did I just go, ooh, right? Because sometimes even change are things we wanted, getting kids, getting married, but it's change, right?
Yeah.
And so be curious about yourself when you feel your natural reaction, which is, oh, I don't like this. This is change. Just peel back your own onion and go, now, why was I resistant to that change? And what could I do to learn more about it? Can I stay curious, ask more questions, realize that there's something I need to learn? Maybe I have no idea what this next new thing is, but lean into it instead of running away from it. I think our natural is it fight or flight type thing? It's like you run away, right? Yep. But just lean into that and go, I need to kind of stay there, whether it's a stage of life, whether it's meeting a new personality you've never had, a new culture you've never met before, or just that next curve in your career. Because some of them are planned and some are complete surprises.
Absolutely. That's awesome advice because change is inevitable no matter what organization you're at or what you're doing in life. So that's great advice. And thank you so much for being a part of our show. Where can our listeners find you?
Well, if you needed to find me, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So absolutely, I'm always glad to connect with people. And I do feel, as you pointed out, it's our job to give back, right? So always willing to answer questions and certainly encourage other people in their own careers. So LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been so invaluable to me and everybody. If you have liked our episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss an update. For all of you job seekers who want to jump out of bed loving your job, you can go to careersandcocktails.com to learn where to purchase my book, I Hate Mondays, to help you find a job you love. And for all of you hiring leaders who want to find the best talent, I have a free guide for you there as well, so you can learn all the secrets of finding great talent. We'll see you next time. Cheers!